What would happen if the CEO himself had to pose as a new member just to uncover the dark side of his own gym? On a chilly Monday morning, while the sky still held the last traces of night's mist, a man walked through the glass doors of Titan Core Fitness, the largest branch in the city center. His cap was pulled low, a dark hoodie covered his neck, his sneakers were plain and worn, and a temporary membership card was tucked into his jacket pocket. He looked no different than any first-time gym goer. No one inside suspected that the man quietly making his way to the front desk was actually Noah Harrington, founder and CEO of the entire Titan Core network. Over the past 3 years, he had expanded Titan Core into a national fitness brand, with the slogan, "Strength for every body," boldly printed on every wall. But this morning, he didn't arrive as a CEO. He came as an ordinary man carrying a question no one seemed able to answer. Why did this branch, despite steady revenue and state-of-the-art facilities, have the highest membership cancellation rate in the entire system? Noah had found no answers in the reports, nor did he trust the polished explanations from his regional manager. But then, an anonymous envelope appeared on his desk, containing a single grainy photo. An older woman sitting alone in a corner of the gym, holding a wrinkled workout sheet, her eyes full of sadness and isolation. Written beneath it in red ink was a single sentence: "Strength for everyone? Prove it." The message struck him like a punch to the very heart of the values he built his company on. That's what brought him here today, not as the owner, but as a stranger in search of truth. From the moment he stepped in, Noah felt something was off. The gym was clean, machines gleamed, the protein bar opened on time, and staff wore matching uniforms. But the atmosphere was oddly cold. Not cold from the air conditioning, but from the way people looked at each other, or didn't. There were no friendly greetings, no connecting glances. He nodded at the young receptionist, Zoe, but received only a quick glance over her monitor and a robotic reply. "Sign here. Locker rooms are to your right." No name asked, no ID checked, no welcome offered. After changing, Noah stepped into the main training area. The space was large and well organized, equipment arranged by muscle groups. But he quickly noticed something no report could ever capture: a silent but stark division between people. A group of muscular young men huddled around the free weights section, laughing loudly, recording themselves for social media. In another corner, a few middle-aged individuals worked out alone on cardio machines, each isolated in their own bubble. Noah scanned the room, and then he saw it. An elderly man, likely in his 60s, stood in front of a squat rack wearing faded gray sweatpants and a worn sweatshirt, holding a printed workout plan marked with pencil scribbles. He looked down at the paper, then up at the equipment, visibly unsure of what to do. Just a few feet away, 2 trainers in the signature Titan Core blue polos stood chatting and laughing, backs turned. The older man slowly approached one of them and asked softly, "Excuse me, could you show me how to use this machine? My doctor recommended squats to help with my knees." The trainer, muscular and heavily tattooed, gave a half-hearted nod. That machine's kind of advanced for you. Maybe start with the resistance bands over there instead." He pointed to a corner area with small dumbbells and old yoga mats. The man nodded, his face falling, and walked away quietly. The paper in his hand was now more wrinkled, clenched tightly in his palm. Noah tightened the strap of his backpack, a heavy feeling sinking into his chest. This was not what he envisioned when he built this gym. This was not the culture he had worked to instill from day one, a place where everyone, regardless of age or ability, would feel supported and inspired. But the truth was playing out right in front of him, and he knew. This was only the beginning. The cable row machine clicked rhythmically as Noah worked through his set, carefully watching the gym floor without drawing attention. He had chosen the perfect spot, a quiet corner, just hidden enough to be ignored, yet with a clear view of the free weights section and the cardio row. His mind still lingered on the image of the elderly man from earlier, walking slowly into the rehab corner, carrying himself like someone who had done something wrong just by trying to work out in a place that was supposed to welcome everyone. Noah kept moving, but now his eyes weren't focused on machines. They were watching how the trainers interacted with members, or more accurately, how they chose who was worth their attention. Over in the cardio zone, a woman in a wheelchair was struggling to adjust the lat pull-down machine. The seat wasn't removable, and there was no adaptive equipment in sight. A blue-shirted trainer, Derek as stitched on his chest, walked by, caught sight of her repositioning herself awkwardly and kept walking. Not a word, not a pause. Noah took a deep breath and stepped toward the water station. He needed a moment to stay calm. But then it happened, the moment he least expected. The employee break room door cracked open behind him, and a conversation drifted out close enough to catch every word. "That old guy this morning? I thought his bones were gonna snap," Mike's voice said, followed by a sneer of laughter. "He should work on breathing before trying to squat." Derek chimed in, his voice lower but colder. "Like that chick in the wheelchair, she'll be gone next week. They always quit. Better that way, frees up space for VIPs. "Yeah, I've got tricks for that," Mike added with a smirk in his voice, as if revealing a money-making secret. "Whenever those freaks show up, I break a machine or say testing hours are over. They get uncomfortable and just leave." Noah froze. His grip around the plastic water bottle tightened until it cracked. Each word felt like a slap in the face, not just to him, but to the trust he had given his team. But the next sentence hit even harder. "Management doesn't care," Derek said over the sound of running water. "As long as we sell enough memberships. More cancellations, more profit. No bonus payouts to worry about. It's natural selection. If you're weak, you don't belong." "This isn't a hospital or a charity," Mike said with a loud laugh. "It's for real bodybuilders, not soft old tourists checking the place out." In that moment, Noah was no longer a silent investigator. He was a witness, someone with a responsibility. He turned away from the break room door, his heart heavy, every step dragging like his shoes were nailed to the floor. Back in the gym, the girl in the wheelchair was slowly leaving, her shoulders slumped, eyes tired and discouraged. Noah couldn't let her disappear like that. He approached gently, keeping his voice soft. "Tough workout today?" She forced a dry smile. "No, it's just none of the machines work for me. I've asked for help, but no one listens. This is my third time trying. Maybe this place just isn't meant for people like me." Noah stood still. Third time, and likely her last. He wanted to say something, but she had already turned away, her wheels quietly rolling her through the glass doors that claimed strength for every body. A wave of resolve surged through him. Noah pulled out his phone, opened his notes app, and started typing. 9:12 a.m. Disabled woman denied assistance. Trainer Mike avoided. Trainer Derek saw but ignored. Below that, he added, derogatory language, overheard in staff room, need audio proof, prioritize irrefutable evidence, review member feedback at this branch, focus, seniors, disabled, non-traditional physiques. He never imagined this was happening under the very brand he built, a brand he once believed stood for inclusive and limitless strength. But now he understood. The problem wasn't the facilities, it was the people, and people can be replaced. Noah gripped his phone tighter, his eyes sharp with purpose. He wouldn't act rashly. To fix something at the root, he needed more than one confrontation. He needed undeniable truth. And he wouldn't do it alone. This was only the beginning. The next morning, Noah returned to Titan Core Fitness wearing his cap pulled even lower, a pair of sports sunglasses covering nearly half his face, and a new backpack, with one item he hadn't brought the day before. A compact recorder tucked inside a hidden pocket near the shoulder strap. He no longer had any doubts. What he was facing wasn't just apathy or a few bad apples. It was a culture slowly leaking toxins from the inside out, and he needed to see just how deep the rot had spread. The morning began with its usual rhythm, high-energy music playing, the rattle of the protein shake cart behind the bar, and trainers laughing with clients whose bodies seemed nearly flawless. But Noah wasn't watching the equipment anymore. Instead, he spent his time talking to the people his management system had never truly listened to. The first was a chubby teenager, around 17, sitting breathlessly next to a chest press machine. He looked around hesitantly, as if hoping someone would come help. Noah approached gently and asked, "First time using this machine?" The boy nodded, smiling sheepishly. "I wanted to try heavier weights, but this morning, coach, Derek told me I should burn some fat on the treadmill first before touching the weights, in front of everyone." He lowered his head and muttered, "I've actually lost 13 pounds since I signed up, but..." Noah swallowed hard. This boy, who should have been encouraged and uplifted, was instead pushed aside by the very people meant to inspire him. He moved on. At the leg press area, he met an older man named Raymond, a recently retired veteran. "I signed up for 3 personal training sessions a week," he said in a calm but weary tone. "Every time I try to schedule one, they say they're busy or fully booked. Once I waited 40 minutes, then they canceled." Noah asked, "How many times have they canceled?" Raymond gave a quiet, bitter laugh. "I stopped counting after week 3. Every time Noah opened a conversation with a member, a new story emerged, different in detail but identical in pattern. A woman named Sophie, recovering from a leg injury, shared that she was denied access to the leg extension machine because it wasn't safe for her condition, even though her membership granted full access. A 70-year-old man said Mike once told him, "That shoulder press machine isn't for people already knocking on heaven's door." A plus-sized female member said Derek directed her straight to the cardio zone to trim down first, instead of letting her choose her own workout. By mid-morning, Noah had spoken with over 10 people. What stunned him wasn't the repetition, but the finesse. These trainers, Mike and Derek, weren't blatantly rude. They were calculated, always smiling when denying assistance, always suggesting better options for the people they wanted to avoid. They made members feel inferior without ever saying anything overtly offensive. And because of that, no one complained, or if they did, it was easily dismissed as a misunderstanding. Noah headed toward the water station, just in time to see Derek guiding a fit young woman through a chest press set. He was attentive, adjusting her form with care, not hesitating to place his hands on her shoulders for alignment. 5 minutes later, when an older man asked for help with the same exercise, Derek gave a vague explanation and quickly excused himself, claiming he had a training session. Then he walked straight to the front desk and spent the next 20 minutes scrolling through his phone. The truth began to piece itself together like a jigsaw puzzle. If a member looked marketable, young, or likely to show fast results, they received top-tier attention. Everyone else, they were just sunk cost. Right then, a woman named Jenna, the noon receptionist, quietly approached Noah when no one else was around. "You're new, right? I've noticed how you observe things. Like a secret evaluator. If you are, please write down what you're seeing. We've reported this to upper management a dozen times. No one replies. Derek even said once, 'This isn't a charity. If you're weak, just get out.'" Noah recorded every word. He knew he couldn't stop at audio. The issue wasn't just 2 rogue trainers. It was a system that had empowered them, unchecked. But to bring down that kind of culture, he needed undeniable proof. Proof that couldn't be ignored or buried. And just then, his eyes locked onto the corner of the gym, where a security camera had recently been reinstalled. An idea sparked. It was time to set a trap. A perfect trap. That afternoon, as the crowd at the gym began to thin out, Noah made his way to the front desk, where only one staff member remained. Jenna, the young receptionist who had whispered to him earlier. With no eyes watching and no ears listening nearby, he decided it was time to dig deeper. "Jenna," he asked gently, "you said you sent reports to upper management. Who exactly did you send them to?" She looked up, hesitation flickering in her eyes. But then, as if she had nothing left to lose, Jenna lowered her voice. "Mr. Stanford, the regional manager. He oversees 5 branches, including this one." Noah nodded. That name had popped up in a few recent emails he'd skimmed. At the time, nothing seemed unusual. Now it was different. Jenna glanced around, then discreetly pulled out her phone and showed Noah a photo. On the screen was a snapshot of an email reply from Stanford, sent to the staff of the branch. Remember, not everyone is a good fit for a boutique fitness environment. A little natural selection is necessary. We can't retain everyone. Focus on long-term potential members. Don't let your energy be drained by tough cases. The final line was italicized and bolded. Effectiveness does not come from pity, it comes from measurable results. Noah felt heat rise in his chest. A mid-level manager entrusted with personnel oversight had officially legitimized an attitude of exclusion and bias. This wasn't just an ethical issue, it was a blatant betrayal of Titan Core's core values. Jenna continued in a whisper. "There was a member here named Gregory. He had early-stage Parkinson's. Kind man, very patient with his training. But after a month, Mike told him, 'With your condition, it's better to find a place that offers medical support.' Gregory canceled the next day." Noah clenched the phone in his hand. Each small story, when pieced together, formed a horrifying mosaic. And what infuriated him most was how this toxic culture didn't just exist. It was spreading like mold, protected by people in power. Just then, a scholarly-looking young man entered, asking for information about a rehab membership after shoulder surgery. Jenna, polite as always, began explaining. But Noah noticed Derek in the distance shake his head subtly, and Jenna was forced to say, "I'm sorry, the rehab program is temporarily unavailable due to equipment maintenance." As the guest turned and left, Jenna whispered just loud enough for Noah to hear, "That's an order from above. We've been told to limit special case memberships. They're worried it'll affect the brand image." Noah left the gym that afternoon with his mind restless. On the drive home, he opened the regional management directory. Stanford's name was instantly marked in red. He recalled a meeting 6 months ago when Stanford had been appointed. All the revenue reports branded him a profit machine. But no one had asked the essential question: where was that money really coming from and at what cost? That evening, in a rented apartment near the branch, Noah laid out a puzzle of truth in front of him. Screenshots of Jenna's emails, recordings captured by the tiny device he had carried for 2 days, text messages from members, and perhaps most damning of all, the expressions of those who had been hurt, not by heavy lifts, but by silence and dismissal. He sent a message. "Activate Phase 2. I need 2 people, 1 adaptive athlete, 1 senior veteran. Emphasize honesty in demeanor. Target: direct confrontation with discriminatory practices. The clearer, the better." The next morning, dressed in a plain tracksuit, Noah stood outside Titan Core, not alone this time. From a parked SUV emerged an upright elderly man with silver hair, Calvin Rhodes, a retired Marine Corps veteran and a longtime friend of Noah's. The second to arrive was Lena Matthews, a decorated Paralympic athlete, now a coach for the disabled community. Noah smiled as they approached. "We're not just here to work out," he said softly. "We're here to expose the truth." At 9 a.m., Titan Core Fitness entered its peak hours. The air buzzed with urgency, the scent of sweat, the clanging of weight plates, the thump of energetic music. But today, amid all the usual chaos, a stage had been set, and the lead actors had no idea they were about to be swallowed by the very stage they performed on. Noah stood near the cardio area, wearing silent wireless earbuds, his eyes scanning every detail. Mini cameras had been discreetly placed in 4 corners, 1 at the protein bar, 1 at the personal training zone, and 2 overlooking the weightlifting and rehabilitation areas. All were legal, property of Noah himself, installed openly with notification signs posted on the walls in advance. Calvin Rhodes, the steadfast veteran, entered first. His lightweight jacket bore 3 military medals pinned proudly to the left side of his chest. He stood tall, eyes resolute, voice firm. "I need to train to keep my muscle mass. The doctor warned me not to let it atrophy with age." Almost immediately, Mike approached with a clearly forced smile. "Oh, hello, sir. We have a gentle workout area for seniors. Resistance bands, light yoga, breathing exercises. Trust me, you don't want to mess with the deadlift zone." Calvin's face didn't flinch. "I used to deadlift 200 kilos, 3 sets, back when you were still learning how to count reps." Mike chuckled awkwardly, then quickly led him to the farthest corner, formerly the old locker room space. At that moment, Lena Matthews appeared, her wheelchair rolling smoothly, posture proud, her arms strong and her gaze unwavering, the gaze of someone who refused to be pitied. She approached the bench press area and began setting up her weights until Derek stepped in front of her. "Hi there," he said in a professionally rehearsed tone laced with condescension. "We actually have a separate area for adaptive training. Over there, this section isn't really suitable." Lena looked up without hesitation and replied, "I'm a Paralympic athlete. I don't need pity. I need to be treated like everyone else." Her words made several members pause. Some turned their heads. An older woman quietly pulled out her phone. From a distance, Noah recorded every gesture, Derek's hand deliberately blocking the bench frame, his averted gaze, and then his next line that pushed the situation beyond the edge. "If you're uncomfortable with our safety protocols, maybe try Planet Fitness. They're more accommodating." Lena didn't answer. She backed away from the bench press, turning slowly so everyone could clearly see the disappointment in her eyes. But that wasn't the end. As Calvin warmed up with a trainer, Derek walked over to Mike and whispered something that made them both laugh. Mike glanced toward Calvin, tugged on the collar of his shirt and mimed a fake muscle tear, then winked at a younger client. "Gotta keep Grandpa safe first," he shouted, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. A few chuckles rippled from the far corner. Noah watched with eyes like steel. Every behavior he had suspected, every disconnected sign he had once glimpsed, was now laid out in full, obstructing equipment, rerouting vulnerable clients, subtle mockery, and ultimately public ridicule. He knew the time for action had come, but before he made his move, he needed a moment that would leave no room for defense, not even from their lawyers. And then fate handed it to him. A well-dressed man, likely in his 40s with a carbon fiber prosthetic leg, was adjusting a squat machine. Mike approached. "Honestly, you might want to consider a rehabilitation center. Our equipment isn't really built for special cases like yours." The man didn't react, only replied calmly, "I have a membership. I'm allowed to use any machine here, and I've been waiting 15 minutes. Mike shook his head. "We're not trained to supervise someone like you. We can't take legal risks." At that moment, Derek stepped in, placed his hand on the machine's rail, blocking access. "It's best if you leave." His arm brushed the prosthetic leg, causing the man to stumble slightly. The entire exchange lasted seconds, but long enough for two nearby members to pull out their phones and hit record. And in the space of a single breath, Noah stepped from the shadows and walked straight into the center of the gym. Silence rippled out like a wave. Mike looked up and saw him. And in that moment, when his eyes landed on the TitanCore logo stitched on Noah's jacket, all the color drained from his face. Derek took a step back. Noah said nothing. He simply raised his hand, gesturing for Calvin, Lena, and the man with the prosthetic to come forward. The curtain had dropped, but Noah knew the most powerful act was still to come. 1 week after the incident, TitanCore Fitness wore a completely new face. Not from within, but from the banners draped across the front entrance. Community Strength Day, TitanCore recommits. To most members, it seemed like a harmless event, just another promotional day. But behind it was a plan mapped out to the second, down to every camera angle and every invited guest. The main lobby was packed, longtime members, shift staff, local reporters, and trainers from other branches. Mike and Derek were there too, summoned under the pretense of helping organize the event. They wore their uniforms, forced smiles on their faces, glancing nervously around as if sensing something was very wrong but not yet sure what. At exactly 11:59 a.m., the background music began to fade. The LED screen behind the front desk lit up. A man in a black dress shirt, with no name tag, no blazer, stepped onto the temporary stage set in the center of the lobby. Light followed each of his footsteps, and when his deep, steady voice rang out, the entire room fell silent. "I'm Noah Harrington, founder and CEO of TitanCore Fitness." The silence shattered like glass. Mike froze. Derek took a step back. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. And then, with deliberate timing, the screen behind Noah changed. "Strength for every body. No exceptions." 5 years ago, Noah said, "I founded TitanCore with a simple mission: to create a space where anyone, whether disabled, elderly, or far from a traditional physique, could walk in and feel welcomed. But in recent weeks, I've realized what I thought was our philosophy has been twisted into nothing more than a slogan." He turned slightly and gave a signal. Then the video began. This wasn't a commercial. It was raw footage and audio captured from hidden cameras. Mike refusing to help Lena, Derek blocking access to a man with a prosthetic leg, Calvin being ushered to a makeshift corner workout zone, and the cruel words spoken by their mouths, each face and voice laid bare. There was no background music, no effects, only the unfiltered truth. Some in the crowd exhaled audibly. Others covered their mouths. Mike's face drained of color. Sweat beaded on Derek's brow. Noah didn't need to add anything. When the video ended, he simply said, "Mike Rallins, Derek Simmons, you are both fired. Effective immediately. Leave this facility and all TitanCore locations right now." Mike jumped up and shouted, "You can't do this. This is entrapment. We'll sue." But before Noah could respond, a voice rose from the crowd. "Sue, I'll testify." Calvin Rhodes stepped forward, voice firm and unwavering. "I'm a former Marine officer, and I was treated like a burden here." And next came Lena Matthews. "I competed for this country, but they told me I should find a more inclusive gym." The man with the prosthetic leg stepped up. "They shoved me away from a machine like I didn't belong." Then a middle-aged woman, a young man struggling with weight, an elderly gentleman. One by one, members rose from the crowd, their voices shaky but resolute. They had once been silent. once hurt. But today, in the light, they spoke. Noah concluded, "Anyone who enables discrimination has no place at Titan Core. That includes regional manager Thomas Stanford, who ignored every report and turned this place into a disguised client filtering model. He has also been terminated." The room erupted in applause. Some staff members cried, members clapped in unison, and at the center of it all, Mike and Derek were escorted out. No more comebacks, no more excuses. But for Noah, this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. 3 months after Community Strength Day, Titan Core Fitness still had that name displayed on the wall. But now those words were no longer a slogan. They had become a living truth. Noah Harrington walked into the flagship branch without a disguise, without hiding, with no lingering doubts about what might be happening behind his back. For the first time in years, he had come to the gym not to inspect, not to supervise, but to train. Just like any other member. Inside, everything had changed. The space had been completely reconfigured. Workout zones were no longer discreetly sectioned off for people with disabilities or the elderly. Instead, all training areas flowed together seamlessly. Machine seats could be removed. Dumbbells had braille instructions, and in one corner stood a touchscreen board allowing users to select exercises based on mobility, not muscle definition. Noah walked past the front desk. Jenna, now the branch manager, smiled warmly. "Welcome back, Mr. Harrington." Or, "Just Noah?" He nodded and smiled gently. "Today, I'm just a member." She nodded back, eyes full of warmth. "In that case, member Noah, someone's waiting for you in the free weights area." And he was. Bathed in the soft morning light of the gym, Calvin Rhodes, the former Marine once sent to a back corner, was now guiding a young man with cerebral palsy through a supported bench press. No longer a test subject in a covert scheme, Calvin was now a part-time trainer, inspiring others with his own story of resilience. Nearby, Lena Matthews was leading a class titled Adaptive Strength, now an official program at Titan Core, with twice the registration numbers since launch. She wore a deep blue polo with the words Adaptive Strength Coach printed on the back, a new symbol for a place that had once turned its back on her. The atmosphere was different, not because of background music, but because of the way people looked at each other. Members of every age, every body, every ability. From an elderly woman gingerly stepping onto a leg press machine to a young man with a prosthetic leg executing deadlifts with quiet determination, they looked at each other with empathy, not comparison. After finishing his workout, Noah headed to the smoothie bar, now redesigned with a lowered counter for wheelchair users, a menu with sugar-free and lactose-free options, and even a newly named item, Lena's Power Boost. As he sipped his drink, he overheard a conversation at the next table. A middle-aged woman whispered to her friend, "This is the first place where they don't look at me like I don't belong. Someone actually helped me without making me feel ashamed." Her friend, a young man with a robotic support arm, nodded. "I used to train somewhere they looked at me like I was a burden. Here, they ask, 'How can we support you?'" Noah smiled. What he had once hoped for was now real. His phone buzzed. It was Andrea, the director of communications. Her message read, "Latest stats, membership up 32%, highest retention rate in company history. Adaptive and recovery program enrollments far exceed projections. We're not just being respected, we're becoming the model." But what made Noah proudest couldn't be found in those numbers. It was in the moment he saw a muscular young man hold the door open for an elderly woman with a walker, in how Marcus, the new trainer, shared his mic with a member with a speech disorder so they could co-lead a presentation. In Lena's new class, parents and children with disabilities trained together, where for the first time, a child's laughter echoed across the gym floor like a symphony of freedom. Titan Core had returned. Not as a brand polishing its image, but as a community reborn from its own ashes. Noah stood at the exit, eyes resting on the sign that read, "Strength for every body, no exceptions," displayed proudly on the wall. He didn't need to say a word. What needed to be said was already being lived, and that's something no speech, no viral video could ever replace. An organization is not measured by its revenue, but by how it treats those who are most vulnerable. When a leader dares to step into the shadows, not to punish, but to listen, that's when true cultural change begins. If you believe that compassion is not a weakness but the foundation of lasting strength, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories. And leave a comment with the phrase shared strength if you believe everyone deserves a place on their own journey toward growth.